Welcome everyone. I am honored and excited to introduce Antje Keppler from EMB at Heidelberg. Antje leads the international BioHub teams, which coordinates and operates the Euro-BioImaging services for biological imaging. Her other passion is coordinating the International Global Bioimaging Network, which promotes open science and open access to imaging research infrastructure services. Recently, she was elected chair of ERIC Forum, where all ERICs come together to represent their voice and interest towards European key stakeholders. Today, in GXGA lecture series, she will talk about Euro-BioImaging ERIC, access to biological and biomedical imaging services. It's great to have you here today. I'm looking forward to your talk.
Thank you very much, Hazal and Anna, for the kind invitation, and to everyone here that you're joining the lecture despite the late time of the day and just ahead of the Easter weekend. Much appreciated. So I will start sharing my screen now. Is that working?
Yes.
Good. Yes, so let's start. I would like to present to you in the next 20, 30 minutes or so about a European research infrastructure, that's Euro-BioImaging, but then also focus here a bit more on our data services before I would then conclude on global bioimaging that was also just mentioned as a global initiative. And before I start with the infrastructure that I'm representing here today, I want to take one step back because it is now about 25 years ago that Europe and the member states and the scientists together started the journey of first understanding the landscape of existing national, I sometimes call them jewelries or treasures, that were already there when it comes to research infrastructures. I think the most famous examples that people think of are CERN, XFEL, DESI, those super large-scale infrastructures which are single-sited. But at that time, things changed because we were looking across different scientific disciplines, what is already there at the national ground and what could we make more efficient to work together across research infrastructures, across borders, and open them up to all European scientists. And this is how ESFRI, the European Strategy Forum for Research Infrastructures, came into being. And fast forward to today's landscape of research infrastructures, we have now, just in the life sciences, 16 European level research infrastructures, which are depicted here on the slide. For example, if you are now looking for services in bioinformatics, and I think this is probably the infrastructure most well known to you, is Elixir. But you also have infrastructures for clinical research, ECRAN, emphasis for plant phenotyping, or MIRI in the domain of microbiology. And then there's Euro-BioImaging in the domain providing services for imaging in biology and medical research. So together we are offering a lot of different services, most importantly access to instruments, but also to expertise, data services, and community building. And these are 16 out of over 60 different European research infrastructures that are now up and running across Europe. And they're covering all the domains. So you have now European research infrastructures openly available to each of us in the domains of social sciences, physics, astronomy, life sciences, as mentioned before, environmental sciences, and so on. And when ESFRI started the strategic assessment, okay, what's there already at the national ground and where can we work together and pool resources, they also thought it would not be so good having all of them becoming an international organization, such as XFEL, CERN, or EMBL. They wanted to have a lighter legal model, and this is the ERIC. So ERIC stands for European Research Infrastructure Consortium. It's a pretty new development as a legal tool, and the first ERIC only started to be there in 2011. But then, due to the strategic work done by the national research ministries and the European Commission, we have by now 31 of those ERICs, as I just mentioned, and they are all available to all the researchers. ERIC as a legal model now allows individual countries to work together. So they can come together in any different set of countries, and they have to be a minimum of 3 countries to decide, let's join forces on a given topic. For example, in Euro-BioImaging, we have now 18 different countries that say, okay, imaging is a priority for us. We want to work together and fund together the coordination of those imaging infrastructures. By now that we have 31, ERIC has become a well-tested legal model, and actually other domains, such as digital infrastructures and even defense, are now looking into applying this legal model as a blueprint. Okay, so that is enough for today as a short exercise on what is out there in the European domain. But I think you can't overstate how much the landscape has changed in Europe in the past 20 years. And I think most of the PhD students and postdocs and scientists are not aware of what is available at their hands these days. And this is really what the European infrastructures are still suffering from. I don't know about the German Human Genome Archive, how visible and you are across the scientific domains. But yeah, maybe this is something where we can also join forces in the future. Now coming to Euro-BioImaging. So Euro-BioImaging is the European research infrastructure for biological and biomedical imaging. We are highly distributed, even our headquarters distributed. So the administrative statutory seat is in Finland. The medical imaging coordination is in Italy, and the biological imaging coordination is hosted by the EMBL in Heidelberg. But it doesn't stop there. The actual imaging services are being offered by the national nodes, and they are hosted by the 18 member countries that we have in Euro-BioImaging plus the EMBL. And the cities where they are located are indicated here with the black dots across the European map. Together, the Euro-BioImaging nodes are providing really the broadest portfolio of different imaging technologies. So it doesn't really matter if you're looking for electron microscopy, cryo-EM, for light sheet microscopy, or you want to image small animals or plant phenotyping, or you want to even do human imaging, and or you are in need of clinical data. We are also providing correlative and multimodal imaging services. So you kind of find more than 120 different imaging technologies across the full scale of resolution at the different Euro-BioImaging sites, as well as the data services. And this is something I would like to highlight a bit more later today. So how does it work? Euro-BioImaging offers, first of all, of course, the physical access to the biological and biomedical imaging technologies. This can be by a researcher visiting the site where the instrument is, but it can also be in remote fashion that they simply send their sample. Then, of course, we're providing the access and support from the senior experts working at the nodes, but also we help the users coming in with image data management because some of these data sets can be fairly large. And we are helping with the analysis of the acquired image data sets. Furthermore, each of our 237 different imaging facilities is also offering training opportunities at each level, from basic to quite advanced. We are open to scientists from academia as well as industry. So we are also welcoming, for example, small and medium enterprises in need of imaging services. And we are open to any career stage and area of research. So we are also open to quite new user communities that are still very unfamiliar with imaging technologies. This is a snapshot from last month. So by mid of March, we had received close to 850 individual and served user proposals. We started, I would like to point this out, at the beginning of the pandemic, which was strange because after 10 years of planning European infrastructure and you're just ready to start, there was the lockdown. So it slowed us down a little bit, but now we really see how things are picking up. And 46% of the user access in Euro-BioImaging is transnational. So people are traveling from one place to another, crossing borders in half of the cases in order to get access to this imaging services they are looking for. And as you can also see on the map, the users are not only traveling within Europe to get access to Euro-BioImaging nodes, but they are also coming from other places around the world. Given that I'm talking here mainly to also people representing DKFZ and cancer research, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to point out that currently there's a funded open call for research proposals. So if you or any one of your peers or any one of your students is in need of imaging services, right now they could apply for funding, which would make the access to the imaging services and many other services across other research infrastructures for free. So if you're interested, please check this out or also send me an email after this meeting. And with this, given the audience here and the brief discussion we had before the meeting, I would like to highlight a bit more our image data services that we are providing in Euro-BioImaging. And before I start, I would also like to point out that this is really the fastest growing service that we are seeing these days. As mentioned, we are providing imaging technologies across all scales. And there are many, many different technologies behind this and very different technologies. And most of them these days produce vast amounts of different kinds of data. And even if you have the same imaging technology, due to the instrument provider, the data is very heterogeneous and a lot of issues involved with this. So across the landscape, there is a huge need to harmonize, standardize, and work together towards to deal with this data, almost to say tsunami. And this is something that is highly prioritized in Euro-BioImaging, and I would like to talk you through those 4 points indicated here on the slide, starting with our image analysis services. So this is when the user has already acquired their image data set. In many cases, our nodes are able to help the users directly at their place where the data was acquired, also with the analysis, and give them suggestions, support before the user travels back home, using the results to write up their publication, for example. But in some cases, this is not possible. And there are also users out there that have acquired data sets at other places, and they now are facing challenges and would benefit from getting support. And for 3 years now, we have 17 of our nodes are offering imaging analysis services to existing data sets that have not been acquired at their site. And this is quite challenging because they don't know really how the data set was acquired. So therefore, this is from our end kind of a unique service. The nodes then develop and maintain open tools and libraries for the image analysis, working with each other also. So if one node can't help, they might forward the user to another node under Euro-BioImaging. And of course there's the analysis support, but then there's also side effects, positive side effects of this image analysis services, such as the sharing of expertise across nodes and with the users, the increasing visibility of the experts that are providing this type of services, because still 5 years ago, this was not really a profession that was recognized widely by the funders. And many of our nodes said, no, we can't provide the service. We don't have the capacity. But this is slowly changing, also thanks to the lobbying efforts that we can do on behalf of Euro-BioImaging, because we have the knowledge and also the resources to help the nodes with this. We are promoting fair services, data services through our nodes towards the users. And of course, we are underpinning here the collaboration among the node staff. I bring you here today one example to make this abstract explanation a little bit more concrete. Through EU projects, we are able from time to time to provide funding, like the CanSurf call that I promoted here earlier to you. There was an Easy Door project in the domain of infectious diseases. And here we could support Susanna, who comes from the Charles University, in getting access to the expertise at the Finnish node to develop an open source, user-friendly automated analysis pipeline to align and process ARG images from mouse brain. So this is just one example how such a service can look like. And Susanna was quite happy with this financial, but also expert support she got. As mentioned, we're trying to bring together the people. And I think this is something else. When we were planning Euro-BioImaging, we were thinking in quite technical terms. Yes, physical access to instruments. Yes, there might be some data services. And then people talk about the instruments and how to best acquire their data and then publish the data. We didn't think so much at that time about the community aspects of all this when we bring together a distributed research infrastructure. And I'm still positively overwhelmed by the effects that we are seeing here. So by now we have, I think, 13 or 14 expert groups up and running. Two of them here highlighted on the slide. One is on image data, where we see an exchange of experience across node staff towards challenges in providing image analysis services. Another of our expert groups is looking at fair image data workflows. And this is even cross-domain, cross-RI. And here it's just as an example, we do have, for example, experts from astronomy sitting in here or from research infrastructures representing biodiversity, because the analysis services that we are using on images of cells can also be applied on photos of stars as well as pictures taken of forests. So segmentation analysis, for example. So that was the part about analysis. I would like then to move on to the community data services. So this goes a little bit along what I just said, that the community building efforts of research infrastructures, I think they are a tremendous positive side effect. And again, Euro-BioImaging is able to provide the space for people to come together to talk with each other about national, regional, international initiatives that are already up and running. Or if an individual has an idea to launch a new initiative, they can check with us. Maybe something is already out there and they can join forces. So in Euro-BioImaging, when it comes to data services, we are representing the communities, for example, in Quareb-Limi, in the OME community, in the Volume EM community, in Neubios and Globios, Global Bioimaging, ESME, and others. You're probably all familiar or have heard about the European Open Science Cloud. I still like this joke that if you ask 100 people, what is the European Open Science Cloud, you get 102 answers. This is still true after 10 years into working with the European Open Science Cloud, but things are moving. And Euro-BioImaging is very engaged here. We have been a member of the EOSC Association since 2021. We have also been representing for a period of time the ERIC Forum as a mandated organization to make sure that research infrastructures understand what's happening, but also that EOSC understands what would be needed for research infrastructures to contribute through our user communities to the EOSC. In this sense, we're providing inputs to the multi-annual roadmap, participating in task forces, engaging in different other working groups, and last but not least, since the beginning of this year, together with Elixir, EMBL, and Instruct ERIC, Euro-BioImaging ERIC has joined forces and submitted a candidate note application in the area of the life sciences research infrastructures. So in this sense, we are also contributing and participating in several infrastructure projects that are funded at the EU level and that are linked to the EOSC activities. And today I would highlight only 3 of these. So that would be the AI for Life Founding Guide and then the EU KIME, which is not on the slide, my apologies, but we're getting there. So the first one is AI for Life. This is a project that started more than 2.5 years ago and will come to an end later this summer. It's bringing together computer scientists, the AI algorithm developers with the life science community. So users who are sitting on an image data set and they would benefit from AI-supported analysis services, they can reach out, and we have facilitated over 20 projects in AI for Life through 3 open calls. But in addition, we facilitated also various hackathons, workshops for people getting together to test algorithms. And although the project comes to an end, we will continue having the biomodel zoo, which you can also visit here under bioimage.io. And we are working closely together with other AI-related initiatives in the EOSC to continue to provide access to the established services. The second project I wanted to mention is called Founding Guide. This is about working together with our partners in Japan and Australia on a future global image data ecosystem for sharing image data. And in this project, we have involved existing archives, data archives, and this is probably resonating more strongly also with the audience here today. So there's the Bioimage Archive, which is hosted by EMBL-EBI and the Image Data Resource. Then there's the SSBD database, which is hosted by RIKEN in Japan. And then also the National Imaging Facility and Microscopy Australia are bringing in their data resources from Australia. And together, through global coordination efforts and community efforts, we try to work on a concerted development of ontologies and metadata. But most importantly, we bring together the people that are working at these archives to talk with each other. And then at the end of the project, hopefully it will be possible that users coming to one place can also search through the standardization of ontologies and metadata, the other archives in those two places. And we are inviting the global community overall to come to those events. So it's not limited to Australia, Japan, and Europe. Last but not least, there's the EU-KIME project. This is a pan-European federated infrastructure for linking and making cancer image data from clinics available in the future. So here, Euro-BioImaging is one among many partners, and the consortium was asking Euro-BioImaging that we ship in from our experience of building a European research infrastructure. So here we are providing, in addition to the technical support on image data management, also the support when it comes to how to develop a legal and governance structure for this future digital infrastructure. I move on to the FAIR data services, and this is really growing a lot, and especially when it comes to training and education. So, and with this, I hop already to the next slide. So we have here at the moment the possibility also through EU funding to provide data stewardship services. So if there is a researcher out there and they ideally reach out before they even start acquiring the image data on the microscope, let's say, they can reach out and together with our data steward work on their data management plan. We also provide templates for this. But then they would also be supported along the way that at the end, their data set, their image data set is fair and can be easily onboarded, for example, into the bioimage archive upon publication of the data set. While, of course, the capacity is limited that we can provide here, so we can't help 500 users, but just a handful. But we are trying to scale the reach of how to make bioimage data fair through our different training activities. So we have periodic live trainings. Just last week, we had one under the umbrella of our image data community days, where people can join in and learn about fair bioimage data. And it's sometimes astonishing how little people still understand what it really means, and also to understand the benefits for them if they make their data fair timely. Then we're providing a lot of self-learning materials online on our website and also through our YouTube channels. For example, there's a step-by-step recipe on data deposition to the bioimage archive, as well as a decision tree to find the appropriate repository. Last but not least, there is also the technical support. So from our team, it's a limited capacity, but we are really trying to be there in the communities that are working on technology development for image data management and analysis. So for example, we have tools such as the batch convert to convert images, high throughput data sets to OME TIFF and OME ZAR files to make them cloud ready. And we are developing training material for the community on OME NGFF. And the latest service that we're providing now has been provided before, but now since last week on several devices is spent, bioimage analysis desktop environment for image analysis services. And this can be used, for example, if you want to do distributed training activities across different sites at the same time. I want to conclude also with one slide on our specialized services in preclinical image data. So the colleagues from the MedHub in Italy, they are providing PDAR, which is a preclinical image dataset repository of metadata, which describes preclinical image datasets from any imaging modality in preclinical imaging. And then there's the XNAP-PIC for preclinical imaging centers, an open source Windows desktop application. I mentioned just a few minutes ago that last week there were the Image Data Community Days, and that was the very first time we had such an event. It was triggered by the last year's Fair Data Workshop, which was really popular, but we have so much more to offer, such as the AI for Life project, for example, or also the output from the founding guide. And we really want to communicate with the scientists widely. And as I said, one of the challenges is still the visibility of the services. But last week it was really overwhelming. We had 494 unique attendees throughout the 5 days that were provided, 62 talks in total. And the participation came from really around the globe. So Japan, Australia, and the people in Chile and Canada got up at 2 a.m. in the morning to listen in. So that was very impressive. And for sure, we will repeat the Image Data Community Days as soon as we have an opportunity, likely next year. Yeah, community building. You can sense that this is something that's quite important for our team. And while, of course, there are the external communities that we want to bring closer to imaging or closer together between countries, there are, of course, also the internal communities, such as the people working at the nodes, providing the services to the incoming scientists. And here you have different generations. You have managers that just started to run their core facility, and you have senior people who have been doing this for 20 years. And we try to bridge between also those different generations. So we have now a job shadowing program up and running where we can provide limited funding for people to travel across Europe to visit another facility to learn about a new technology or how to manage a facility. We are planning to launch training courses later this year, which will be a first Euro-Bioimaging training school. And then there's a mentoring program, and that's even an international program where we have mentors and mentees paired around the globe, again, to talk about their daily challenges or questions when running an open access facility to the users to learn from the more senior colleagues. And by a side effect here is that they're often building then collaboration and cooperations and even friendships in some cases and stay in touch also when the program is done. In Euro-Bioimaging, we have been from the start working closely with industry. And industry in Euro-Bioimaging comes in different flavors. So there are the commercial users, small and medium enterprises, for example, but also a pharma industry that is in need of imaging services. Sometimes they just want to test the pilot before maybe acquiring a certain imaging instrument themselves. In other cases, they simply don't have the investment yet to purchase the imaging instrument themselves, and they need some quality check. So here we are supporting the nodes to work together with industry to gain visibility within their local community so that there's an understanding also within biotech industry, for example, what actually can be done. And we support them with active matchmaking and communication material. But we're also supporting the companies to understand, are there funding opportunities out there? For example, at the EU level, there's different opportunities here. What are the requirements if they want to travel to another country? So we try to be there for both sides, the nodes as well as the commercial users. Then there are the collaborations between industry and the nodes on tech development, because imaging technologies are developing at a really breathtaking pace. And imaging 20 years ago looked very different to nowadays. So we are supporting our nodes to work together with industry on proposals that can be then submitted to the EU, for example, and to identify also partners if they don't know themselves a suitable industry partner or a suitable node candidate. And we are then helping to onboard the new technology developments into the facility so that they can be provided to the biologists and medical researchers. Because this is often another step that is underestimated, how much work is needed to really make instruments ready for being useful for the research questions. And then there's the industry board, which I also summarize here for you on the next slide. So already 10 years ago, Euro-BioImaging Industry Board was launched by the companies. So this is an independent body from ourselves, but we are closely working together. These companies had recognized the potential of having a European level research infrastructure, also for having a platform for cross collaboration with the different providers of imaging technologies as well as with the users. So we now see a lot of activities happening at the interface of the industry board and the nodes, such as common events, tech exchange, which is a little bit like the format here today, a regular webinar series. And we help them also to provide one voice activities to promote the importance of imaging. Last but not least, there's global bioimaging. And just as a clarification, global bioimaging is not a global research infrastructure. This was started about 10 years ago in 2015 and first funded as an EU project. It's a network. It's where managers of imaging infrastructures come together to talk to each other. So it's by people for people, and it's not about providing services in the sense of access or data services. It's really a get-together of people who are providing these services. We started in Europe together with India Bioimaging in Australia at the time, but as you can see here on the map, it has been growing significantly in the past 10 years. So we have now 13 regional networks representing over 60 individual countries and all inhabited continents. And what we are doing here is that once per year, we come together in an annual conference, the Exchange of Experience Conference. This year, it will take place in Montreal in Canada in October, where we exchange then on certain topics. Last year, the topic was data. We have several international working groups up and running for global collaboration, as also here depicted on the slide. So, for example, we have an international working group on image data management. And from these working groups, we see as an output international recommendations. Several of them have also been picked up and published in scientific journals. And they are on topics that are relevant for imaging scientists. For example, how do I assess the impact of my core facility when next time there's a finance decision to be made by my department? Or to work together on image metadata standards across the different global regions, or how to tackle career path problems. The recognition of technical staff and managers running those core facilities is often still quite challenging. And here again, we were able to provide recommendations that have been published and picked up in many different places and even have led to a spotlight series on YouTube. Then we have international in-person training courses that have been taking place in the Americas as well as in Africa, and we are now moving to Australia and India this year. And there's a job shadowing program connecting imaging scientists also in those places around the world. And that's my last slide. All of this is possible only because of having many, if not to say hundreds of people in place that are really engaged and convinced that open access and working together is the right thing to do. And then thank you, of course, also to all of you and the audience here for your attention.